Hello and welcome. I'm Jess Campmans Guided by Equus, and I'm here with your Horse Wisdom Insights for, I guess it would be the week, but today is the last day of September, and it's been super windy here, which is normal for fall in southern Alberta. And every time I brought my intention out to do a video, it was just too crazy windy. So I thought, well, I'll go out here early this morning and see if it's possible. And right here in this space where I'm standing actually feels, even though it's windy all around me, it feels like this space right here, even though if I turn around, it's not directly sheltered, but it's like indirectly sheltered. And I guess that feels like it's part of the message for this week. Also, with what I got when I was driving here was the word unfurling. And I was like, well, unraveling. But it kind of came like, no, this is unfurling. Like how a plant would open up slowly. So kind of like a ripening. Something's coming up from deep within us to help us unfurl ourselves, I guess is the best way I can say it. And I was here yesterday with these guys, and there was kind of a really interesting piece of information that came through with karma, which I feel like really relates to the idea of where we're at in our, call it timeline, in our history with our own personal karma, and possibly the karma of like why we're all here at this time. And there's a lot to be said for all of that, but I'll share my piece that kind of came for me, and maybe that might help you connect to something in your own life and your own recognition of a piece of wisdom. And Aine's just yawning over there. Let's kind of turn and shift. So it feels like kind of that space that where we're supported to, you know, even be out in the open, be vulnerable, and yet in that space, we have this ability to find what it is that we need and be supported by it. And so this wisdom of karma, I was here with my oldest daughter, and we were working through something that was kind of for me personally. I want to say maybe last year about this time, and she said, "Mom, a piece of you is in that horse." And I've kind of shared around that before, I think even a couple weeks ago in that story with karma. And if you want to go back to it, I believe it was around about the beginning of September. And what came to me yesterday, in kind of a synchronistic occurrence of events, was I realized that piece that I rejected, that part that I rejected of myself is that piece within karma. And it is actually my own karma to recover that piece, to recognize that like this has been a journey of unfurling, unfolding, opening up to the wisdom that karma holds for me, which is that part of myself that I rejected, and it needs to, or it wants to come back to be returned to me, so it can be, I can become more whole, I guess. And part of that relationship with our karma is like our return to power, a more authentic power, and trusting that what we need and what we know will come and return to us in a way that is divine timing, I guess, because we need these experiences for us to be able to recognize the source of the wisdom, so that we can embrace it rather than continue to keep it outside of us. And really all karma is just an imbalance in energy. And I've kind of come to recognize how imbalanced, again, my own personal body is, and a reflection of that karmic imbalance too. So just kind of taking a breath in all of that. And it's interesting because these guys all came over to meet me, and now they're all moved off into That would be the northwest direction, which I'm just kind of feeling into that, is like a return to, and I know right now we've actually moved into Mercury retrograde, meaning that the planet Mercury is turning backwards to go over the space that it has been, so that we can kind of return to Mercury is that bridge, that messenger between worlds, and the ability to communicate and think, but it's also beyond that linear thinking, right? It's that interpreting the messages and the signs. So here's one more piece too. As I was sitting there this morning, tuning into kind of all of this wisdom, I had a bird come and hit the window. And most times when birds have hit the window lately, they fly away. And I walked over to the window and he's laying there dead. And there's been, in my experience around the farm, I'll just walk upon a dead bird lately. It happens almost on a daily basis. And this felt really like a big part of this week's message too, as to maybe why it hadn't come through until today, which I always trust. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just stalling on that, but then when I just open up and embrace this space and the timing of it, it always seems like there's something else that happens to be relative to this message. So what I kind of received from that is the idea of death and being the doorway, and that we, I don't want to say necessarily fear it, although I believe that there is a pretty big fear of what it means to die for any one of us in what we believe for our own selves in relationship to that. But there's also this sense of sadness that when we, even me looking down at the bird, like, why'd you have to die for that? And maybe it's not necessarily that, okay, let me step back. That relationship to that loss and that grief is part of this experience of both karma and being able to be that messenger or bring that message through or invite that message in. Because in order to receive that message, we have to let go of possibly something that we thought about ourselves, our relationship with something, the universe, someone else, anything, you fill in the blank. And with that sense of witnessing death, there is always a loss that comes with it so that something else can be gained. And while that's really simple to say, it actually, I can even feel it inside, right? It can be heartbreaking, and yet that thing that always feels like it's heartbreaking is that breaking open of ourselves, that unfurling, unfolding, because we've come to a maturity or a wisdom or an understanding of a greater capacity of something. So it really feels actually, and that today is September 30th and we're moving into the month of October, which always feels very like that veil between worlds is very thin. So that translating between, the spirit realm, those who have passed, those who have gone before us, death as the doorway, feels like that's just really encapsulating all of that in the month of October. And that there's really a bigger piece of wisdom in that for each of us. And I'll come back to Karma's story, that her mom died giving birth to her, gave up her life so that Karma could live, which to me was a huge loss. And yet within that loss, there was something even bigger gained. But always that having to move through that sense of loss and grief in order to receive the next thing. And not even that it's bigger and better, but it's just the next thing, the next piece, the next step. In order to embrace that, there's that piece of having to also embrace the loss and that grief that comes with that, so that we can get the message. If I was just stuck there watching the bird, and heartache for it, then I wouldn't be able to move through that doorway. So that feels like all of these pieces are kind of unfolding for us this week in relationship to what I guess is coming in this month of October. And these guys are all just kind of holding space for that. So just kind of taking a breath in all of that, and letting yourself, I want to say be, but it's not even that. It's be witness to and being present for what it is that's unfurling, I guess, within you. And with that, I'm really getting actually a sense of being here. And like there's a deep grief that feels very collective and at the same time very personal. And so just becoming present for that, and giving ourselves space this month to be able to open up to that and what it has to share with us as a message, and what that message is helping reveal for us this week, and again kind of leading into the month of October. So much love for myself and Coast. And who else is back there? Stormy, Karma, Aini, and Fancy. And interesting too, this feels kind of recognition of something. Thanks, Coast. Coast is here. Coast and Karma are kind of at polar opposites. Karma's in the northwest and Coast is in the southeast. And so it's like finding our compass this month too, in relationship to the dark and light in all things. So just taking a breath on that. And actually it feels like that sense that I was feeling in my heart has kind of shifted down, and even just the recognition of that and that polarity that we've maybe been feeling in the world lately. It's that compass, that inner compass, finding yourself within that space. So much love for myself and all of these guys, and I look forward to sharing more through the month of October with Guided by Equus.